So good evening, everyone. I'd like to inform everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet via the Council's website and will be capable of repeated viewing. The images and sound recording may be used for training purposes within the Council. In order to ensure that the meeting is managed effectively, can everyone please keep to the following guidelines for speaking. Councillors should only use the raise your hand function to request to speak and only speak when invited to do so by the chair. Please switch off your camera and microphone when not speaking, and remember to set your mobile phone to silent for the duration of the meeting. Any views expressed by any speaker in this meeting are the speaker's own and they do not necessarily reflect the views of the Council. Please be aware that the webcast will continue to be streamed live 20 seconds after the close of the meeting. This is due to a time delay in transmitting live. So now if we can turn to the agenda, please. The first agenda item is apologies for absence. Are there any apologies, please? No,
Not
don't
aware of
think
any.
so.
Sorry, excuse me, please, Rachel. Please may we record the apologies of Mr. David King, who's a member of the Tenant Engagement Group.
Certainly, thank you. So second item on the agenda is the appointment of chair. So are there any nominations for the position of chair, please?
Rachel, could I nominate Councillor Taylor, please?
Is that seconded, please?
I'll second that.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. Is everyone happy with Councillor Taylor to take the position of chair? Anyone against, please show. No, I can't see any hands. So thank you, Councillor Taylor. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone. First up, item 3, to receive disclosures of interest on any matters before the committee. Does anyone have any pecuniary interest to declare? No? Any other interests? Oh, Martin's raised his hand.
Yeah, we should probably just recognise that we've got a couple of tenants on the call tonight.
Okay. So that's George. Welcome, George. And also Stella.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. And we go on to item 4, terms of reference. Can we put those up on the screen? I'm happy to read them out if you can't.
I've got it if you need it.
Can you share it, Martin?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's just going.
Am I going to get 2?
I
Can
think
everyone
Martin
see-
got there before me, sorry.
Can everyone see those? You might need to zoom in. So these are the terms of reference that we'll be using going forward. Does anyone, Helen, do you want to add anything or anything to add before we agree them?
I think they're quite comprehensive, Chair. I think as the board meets more regularly and evolves, it may choose to change them. And again, as the tenants group meets and evolves, they may wish to propose suggestions, but I think it's a sensible starting place. Thank you.
And anyone else have any thoughts on them? Can we agree those then?
Yes, Chair.
Everyone else?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Excellent. Thank you. So next up, we've got the update on the compliance and performance. Sorry?
Yeah, so, it's just you had a hand raised for a second there, but it was taken back down.
Yeah. A very quick.
I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. So next is Helen, who's going to update us on the compliance and performance measures of housing. Over
Yeah,
to
and
you, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to share my screen because obviously it worked beautifully this afternoon when I presented these to Mr. Owen. And now when I've got the pressure of being live, it isn't sharing.
Shall I do a bit of an
beautifully.
introduction, Helen, while you're looking
That would
for
be
that?
so helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that we thought was really important for our housing board was to give you measures of what's happening within the housing stock, the service that we're getting, that we're delivering. That made me smile.
I don't know where that came from or how I stop it.
It's gesture driven, but you might, if you struggle, we can sort it out after the meeting. But just back to the key performance indicators. So we're looking across a whole range of metrics, from antisocial behaviour to the repairs in our housing stock, to how we turn over the housing stock, the void periods. Now, what that means is that you will be getting a lot of information. So we don't expect everybody to understand everything right from the off. But what Helen's going to give you today is a sense of the direction that we're heading. Indeed, as we said with the terms of reference, we see the development of the key performance indicators as being an iterative process. We're presenting them, but we want to hear from you as to whether they're the right sorts of things you want to see, whether they give you the information that you need. And this will be developed over the course of the time that we have the housing board. So we want to be responsive to what you're looking for and make sure that we can feed you with the information that you need to be able to judge the housing service, the housing stock, and what we've got there. So it looks like Helen's ready to go. So hopefully that tees you up in the right way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Owen. So with the Chair's permission, put together some examples of the sort of reports that we can present to you. I thought the group may prefer to select the areas that it wants to look at. So I've selected 7 areas that are relevant. Then been the Social Housing Regulation Bill, complaints, disrepair claims, tenant engagement, repairs, antisocial behaviour and compliance. Then suggested that other areas that may wish to be viewed are the culture review, which is the review between the housing, repairs and asset services to ensure that we're all working in commonality and to one goal. In terms of rental arrears, housing waiting list, homelessness, right to buy sales, our buyback scheme and properties within the pipeline, the care link service and damp and mould. And these have all been selected through feedback from councillors, tenants and obviously regulatory pressures and obligations. So in terms of the 7, we've just put together some examples of how these may be reported. I have to say Mr. Owen has been very helpful in some of the automation for this. So the top left-hand corner there, that's our compliance against the Social Housing Regulation Act. There's just 2 areas that we still feel we need to look at. And they're actually, I think since we produced this, that's probably gone down from 2 to 1, if not to 0, because this is a working document. This is something that's evolved every day and that's been developed every day. And you can see there, the amber ones, they're ones where we feel that we're broadly compliant, but there's room for improvement. And green is where we know that we're absolutely there. And we do actually review these regularly. So just because we say we're green, absolutely there today, that could change. And so they are reviewed regularly. Moving across to the total number of complaints. So the darker green is tenancy related.
Helen,
sorry.
I just wondered whether it's just pausing there to see whether anybody's got any questions or observations, just to make sure we're inclusive for everybody there. It's fine if there isn't. We'll be ready to move on.
Super, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And then the second one. Hello. Hello. Oh, I think that was a hello to someone else. So the second one there is the total number of complaints in the last calendar year. The dark green there being ones that relate to tenancy elements of the housing service. The middle one being the repairs service. And the one next to it, the little column, is the ones that have actually gone to Ombudsman during that period. We do have a good record with the Ombudsman. We've had some good results when people have felt that they want to challenge us through that way. The bottom left-hand corner is housing disrepair claims. These are claims being brought under the Housing Disrepair Protocol, which is a national legal framework for those who aren't getting satisfaction from their landlords. Unfortunately, it can be quite a lucrative position for some legal representation. So we do sometimes find that these claims are being encouraged, shall we say, on social media. I know some of the members within the call have actually highlighted that to me in the past. So we are monitoring this very closely. As you can see, we do receive quite a number of claims. They are of quite high value, and we do settle them as soon as we can. So unfortunately, there is a time lag in between a claim being made and a claim being settled. I'll pause there if there's any queries. Oh, Fiona. Sorry, Councillor Sloman.
Yeah, when we do the housing disrepair claims and the breakdown, can we also say which ones of them have been proved to be spurious?
Yeah, that's something we can look at as to whether we believe that there was genuine fault. Of course, yeah, I'll make a note of that for you. And then the one in the bottom right-hand corner is tenant engagement. So the number of tenant interactions, events and tenants involved over the last 12-month period. And you can see that just jumps up and down over there. Are there any queries on those before I move to the next set of examples? With your permission, Chair, if I move on. And then the next three here we've put together. So the top left-hand corner is repairs. I'm afraid we did have some issues getting the axes to have the correct labels on, and I'd rather bring something than nothing. So the first set of columns on the far left, that's the total number of repairs. And the red column next to it for a year, and the red column next to it is those that went out of time. The following four sets relate to priority 1, 2, 3 and 4 jobs respectively. So as colleagues will see, all priority 1 jobs were completed within the time frame there, which is the what we would call threat to life jobs: no heating, no hot water, lack of sanitary facilities, those sort of very urgent jobs. Middle one there is P2, so that's within 7 days, and as you can see there is a small amount of ones that went over. Going forwards, may I suggest that you may wish to know whether that was due to a no access from the resident's perspective, or whether that was an issue from ourselves as to why those went over. The next one along is priority 3 jobs, and then the final one, priority 4. Any queries at this point, please?
Just a comment. Do our residents know what how many days we're talking about in terms of P1, P2, P3, P4?
Thank you, Councillor Barrow. Yes, it is publicised within the Tenants Handbook. It's on the website as well, and it is something that we can highlight in the forthcoming summer newsletter if you feel that would be useful.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. I'll make a note of that as well. So moving along to the right, this is something we've recently started doing. I apologise, it's a little difficult to read. So within the housing team, we have 4 geographical patches. And the reason that they're colour coded is because when queries come in, you can assign them to a colour, and then an officer going into the generic box can tell which is their query. It works incredibly well. But it doesn't always translate so well if you don't know what the colours mean. So the orange patch is Glossop and Hadfield and Simindley. The green patch is Gamesley and Charlesworth. The blue patch is the central area, Chapel, New Mills, Whaley Bridge. And the purple patch is what used to be called the south of the borough. So Fairfield, Hope Valley, Dove Holes, those broad speaking geographical areas. And what we've started to do is analyse the sort of nuisance that we're receiving by patch so that we can do targeted work. So, for example, if we're receiving particular reports of dogs on the green patch, we can start to work with colleagues, the dog wardens, to address that. If we're receiving particular issues around the maintenance of gardens within the purple area, we can do things like community clear up days. So it just enables us to target our communication and our efforts in a way that's actually tackling the issues that are affecting people within those areas. And again, these are live figures. these change every day as the officers are working on patch and working on cases, so they will fluctuate a little. Again, if there's anything that anyone would like us particularly to focus on in the reporting, please let me know and we can incorporate that, because this is, like I say, examples and evolving. Martin.
Yes, just to add a little bit more to what you've said there, and clearly these are reports of antisocial behaviour that we're dealing with. Behind this is a plethora of work that the team do, not just the High Peak Borough Council team, but also with the police where it's necessary, and other agencies. So again, there's a lot there, and it's perhaps something that you might at a future housing board look at in more detail and get a bit more depth on.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll move to the bottom. So this is a particular focus on the compliance in terms of safety within our homes. As members will be aware, the Regulator of Social Housing sets 4 consumer standards for us, the first of which is safety and quality. And this is to ensure that obviously our tenants are safe within their homes. So we've highlighted there what we feel are the ones that are probably the higher risk and therefore most important to monitor. Those are gas and heating. We have and retain 100% gas compliance for the last 8 years. That means every single property that we own and manage has got a valid gas certificate. Occasionally that's very challenging to achieve, and we do occasionally get to the wire with some people who for whatever reason aren't comfortable or don't wish to let us in, but I'm very proud to say that we've retained that and continue to do so. In terms of our obligations around asbestos, fire safety, electrical safety, water hygiene lists and CO detectors. So that's all in there. We're just waiting the final figures on the CO detectors. I apologise, there was a bit of a delay in getting those, unfortunately, in time to prepare the slides. Just check if everyone's content with that or if there's any queries, please. Councillor Gruby.
Yeah, I'm absolutely content with it, Helen, but I just wonder, could we have a copy of the tenant's handbook?
Yes,
so that we know what they're looking at? Thanks.
There is, I do believe if you go onto the website, there is a QR code that you can scan and download it, but I can send you a PDF copy as well if you prefer.
Oh, if there's a QR code on the website, I'll look for it that way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Item 6 now, then that's you again, Helen, isn't it? Which is a programme of policy reviews. Pages 5 and 6 of the pack that was sent out.
You're on silent, Helen.
Not only am I on mute, Councillor Barrow, but my connection has just failed, so I now need to try and recall which of the policies are down for review.
Oh.
Let's see how well I go.
Sorry
so
about that.
I think for May, the policies due for review, thank you, are the Disabled Adaptations Policy, which is currently being considered by the Tenant Engagement Group and our critical friends at Derbyshire Law Centre. That will be ready to be presented to yourselves in May. And the Mutual Exchange and Succession Policies, which have been approved by the Tenant Engagement Group already this week. So they'll be ready to be presented to you. The Disabled Adaptations Policy is quite a lengthy document and will need some careful consideration. The other 2 policies have been reviewed because the tenancy agreement had its triennial review this year and they quote the tenancy agreement. So in terms of housekeeping, it's important that they're dealt with together. The Tenant Engagement Group have helped pull together this forward plan. It's based on the work they are seeking to do. The next thing is the Domestic Abuse Policy. We feel that that's an important thing to review and it's an ever-evolving area. There's lots more support and initiatives taking place that we can link into. We're also looking to do our tenancy sustainability policy in connection with our programme of tenancy health checks and how we approach that. We're looking to do that in September of this year. So that's when we believe that somebody may need extra assistance or there may be an issue within the property, the fabric of the dwelling, so that we can go in and take an inspection and move forwards and support people and ensure that the property is safe. Other things that we are looking at looking for in November would be the antisocial behaviour policy. Again, that's something that deeply affects people's well-being, something that we want to take some time to consider. And also a policy around under and over occupying. There's lots of people on the list who need a smaller property, lots of people who need a bigger property. Obviously that keys in with the mutual exchange policy as well. So those are the ones that we're looking at the moment. We propose form the forward plan for the board. Also, the tenant engagement group have been developing an approach to compensation policy in accordance with, you know, similar to what Ofgem offer if an energy provider doesn't attend a planned appointment. Just explain that arose because we have made amendments to the tenancy whereby if a tenant gives no access for a planned appointment, we can recharge them. And the group felt it was important that there was equality within that arrangement. So that's something that Mrs. Ridgway is currently drafting for us, and the group will consider and present to yourselves when it's ready. Thank you. Oh, sorry, and if there's anything else that needs to be added, please just let us know. We currently meet fortnightly as a tenant engagement group, so we can consider where we can pop that into the work plan. I think it's very important that the tenant engagement group are the ones that look at these before we present them to board to ensure that voice is heard. Thank you, Chair.
Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to raise regarding that? We move on. We're flying through this. So next is Helen again, I think, which is the TSM report, which was a really good report. We thought we came out really, really well on that, especially compared to other local authorities. Do you want to lead on that, Helen, or is that going to be Martin? You're on mute, Helen.
I'm being so disciplined at turning myself on and off that I keep leaving myself on mute. I apologise. So just the background to this report. So within the regulatory requirements, we have to complete an annual survey. We have to have at least 522 responses to that survey in order for it to be deemed acceptable. So we appointed a company called Acuity to complete it on our behalf. It was felt that an independent voice may get a more candid view, and it's so that it worked very well. We had a high success rate and we had a really good return. So there's all sorts of figures on here. If we can just go to the top, please. Is it yourself driving, Martin?
Sorry, I was just working my way through it slowly in case there's anything you wanted to see. But if there's any particular page, you tell me no.
It's the one where it's the headline satisfaction levels. I think it's quite near the beginning of of all the graphs, and then we can go through. So overall satisfaction, there it is. Yeah. So overall, 77% of the residents surveyed were very satisfied, and 44% were very satisfied, 33% were fairly satisfied. So that's 77% where I come from. 11% had no strong view, and then we had 7% and 5% who were either fairly dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. So it's a great start, but obviously it does show us that there's room for improvement. We have got some of these split down by patch. So the patch areas, patch 1 is what we referred to as the orange patch, which was the Gloucester Padfield. Patch 2 is Gamesley and Charlesworth. Patch 3 central area, New Mills, Chapel and Whaley Bridge. And patch 4, Fairfield, Dove Holes, Harper Hill and Hope Valley. So I think they're quite, and it's quite interesting to see the slight variations between each patch as we work through. Was there anything on that one? Oh, Councillor Todd.
Sorry, when you say patch 4 is Dove Holes and Fairfield and such like, it doesn't include the sheltered accommodation in Buxton at all then?
Yes, it does. It's a geographical patch.
Right, okay, you didn't mention Buxton.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, okay,
My
thank
apologies,
you.
Buxton. Sorry, Martin, I can't see it anymore.
Yeah, I've stopped sharing it, but if there's anything you want me to share, I'm happy to do that.
I think there was a slide around each of the elements. So being safe in your home, the antisocial behaviour one, I think it was 84% satisfaction on one of them. Sorry, it's
The page number would be more helpful.
It would be, yeah, if I could see it, it would be helpful, Martin, but my connection, the gateway's thrown me out. Sorry, I just was struggling. Let me see if I can get in a different way. So
it's past here, isn't it?
Yeah.
These are pretty good results as well.
Yeah.
Can we talk about my favourite one?
Yeah, you do your net provider. I'm going to try and get it through the public access so I can see which page number. You discuss your net promoter.
Yeah, so this concept on page 17, page 24 of the pack, net promoter score is something that's used in lots of organisations to understand who would actively promote you and your services versus who would say something negative about you and be detractors. So the concept of net promoter score is you add up those who are for you and take away those who are against you, and hopefully the result of that, certainly in the public sector, is to be positive in the first instance. But the more positive you can be, the more that people are promoting and willing to promote and have a positive perception of what you do. Now, we will struggle to compete with some of the public sector, for example, the ambulance service, the fire brigade. They always get a tremendous positive net promoter score. So what we always look to do is compare ourselves with like-for-like organisations. So to come out with a positive 21 on the net promoter score is a good thing. But as with all of these measures, even where we've got good scores, we don't plan to sit on our hands. We always look to ways that we can engage better, do things better, and to improve our scores. So I always seek, and Helen will know that I particularly requested this be included, and having requested it, it's right for me to mention it and bring it to everybody's attention there. So Helen, have you found the page number for the one you're looking for? What page is that?
Page 22 to begin with, please.
This one?
Yeah. So this, and I was right, it is 84%. So these are the key areas where people were highly satisfied, or where we've got a bit of room for improvement where they weren't so satisfied. So I think it's really pleasing to see that right up at the top there is that people feel that they have a safe home, they feel that they're treated fairly with respect, that we're easy to deal with, that 78% is people who have reported a repair in the last 12 months being satisfied, and the overall satisfaction there at 77. We get towards the bottom end. These are areas that we are going to be focusing on. Like I said, we will be bringing reports on ASB policy to yourselves in November. I think it's very important to highlight on the complaints handling is that is low across the piece. That isn't just ourselves. And that's because quite often the outcome of the complaint will influence one's perception of how it was handled. And so there's a piece of work to be done around that. I think it would be remiss of me not to highlight that. And I think, Martin, you're going to agree, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah, you'd like to think we were working together on these things, wouldn't you? And the complaints handling aspect, it's important that we try to peel back some of the layers as to why we get that sort of score, and Helen's mentioned one of them there. One of the others that we've already put some work into is to do a sort of triage of complaints that come forward, because often people are not familiar with making a complaint, writing a formal communication. Some people that we deal with have chaotic lives, and so what we're doing, or what we've done, is put in place a triage arrangement where we have dedicated some staff in our customer services team to look at what's in a complaint, to liaise with the person that's making the complaint, so that we really get to the bottom of what is it particularly that you're looking to get responded to. So if we get that right first time, and as a first part of resolving a complaint, then we've got a much better chance of really then addressing what the actual nature of the complaint is. So I'm also responsible for customer services, and so we've put that in place early on. And as you can see in that dissatisfaction measure, it's the number one thing that we need to address on that side of things. And I'd like to think even within a month, that we would start seeing a better score on that if we were to run it again.
Thank you. I think, is there any queries on that? There's just another one I particularly, it's such a detailed report, we could be here for a good while, but there's just another one I'd like to highlight if no one's got. Councillor Sloman.
Yeah, I would just like to say that the problem that we've had with assets and with, you know, the fact that we've got interim people and all the rest of it, I think that could influence some of this. And I'm wondering how much they paid attention to that problem when they came.
So in
I'm
terms
happy
of,
to.
sorry, carry on, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm happy to pick up on that because again, Councillor Sloman will know whose responsibility assets is right now.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah. So some of the issues that we have had gaps in people available and not having somebody in post to do things. What I would say is that the interim staff that we got in at the moment are really good, really dedicated, and so moving things forward in terms of the complaints and some of the other things. But nevertheless, we want to have a permanent staff and a permanent cohort in place that is able to deal with everything on a consistent and ongoing basis. So it's incumbent on me and indeed the leadership to work together to establish what we need by way of a permanent staffing arrangement for our assets and the support that goes into housing, for example, in repairs and everything else that goes with that as well. And that then we can recruit and have in place the right permanent structure with the right people in place. And to that end, we are underway with a number of key recruit activities to help us do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
If there's nothing else on that one, could we, with the chair's permission, please move to page 25?
Please do.
Thank you. I thought it was quite important to highlight this. So this is benchmarking against other people who Acuity have completed the survey for, and they're one of the two main providers of this sort of service nationally. So we are the mint green colour there. So you can see where the upper quartile, Acuity median and lower quartile performance sits. And I just wish to highlight that we're at the sort of the top end across all those measures there. There's some slides either side around the national context, but I just felt it was important to highlight that despite some of the figures perhaps not being as high as we would have wished, when we compare ourselves to others, they're incredibly positive. Was there anything else anyone wished to add on that?
So can I just ask, Helen, do we know how many clients Acuity have? I know they've got housing associations and councils, and they mentioned that they've got councils of different sizes, but do we have any idea how many of these they've done?
I do have the information, but I don't have it just to hand. I can get that very easily and feed it back.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the reasons we selected them was because they had a decent benchmark for us to compare against, but we'll get back to you on that. I know that Helen and I had that same conversation, so I know that we've got it.
Yeah, given that we did so well, it would be good to know.
I have a figure in my head, but I would rather just double check that figure is the correct figure before sharing it. Thank you.
Alan's got his hand up.
Yeah, and following on from that, thank you, Chair. Following on from that, really, are these all similar sort of councils to us, or do they differ in you know? I mean, are there some here that have got a lot more council houses than us, or are they all the similar sort of size? Because that would make a difference as well.
There will be a mixture. I think if we go to the next slide where it's the national context again, you can see against all the clients where it goes with the general needs there. These are all these people have got more than 1,000 tenants, because that's the benchmark for which you then become that you have to publish your data. I don't have that detail about where we sit with it in terms of their other clients, but I think it's really important to note that this is the first time that any of us have had to do this. So this is the sort of the inaugural data set. And I think that as the tenant satisfaction measures become embedded and we've got more data to compare it to and whatnot, we're able to do so. But like I say, it is the very first time it's been done. So it is I just wish to sort of highlight how pleasing it was against the others.
Good.
Thank you.
Was there anything else, Helen, or shall I stop sharing now?
I think unless any members have any queries, I think I'm happy to pass back to the chair. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Anything they'd like to raise? So we're down to the next item then. Oh, do we need to agree that or approve it, or is it just for noting?
It's for noting, please, Chair.
Thank you. So the next item is item 8, which is the new 30-year housing strategy timetable. I think again that's you, Helen, is it? You're putting your shift in.
I think it's my colleague Martin is leading on that one.
Yeah.
Just so you get a different voice for a bit, really. It is.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a small bit of paper, but an enormous piece of work. And so what we have is we've got a 30-year housing strategy that was done 4 or 5 years ago. We're looking to redo that, to look again out across the next 30 years as to what our housing stock should be, what we need to address by way of the demographics, by way of the tenancy profile that we've got and that we expect, and the way that changes over the 30 years. There's an enormous piece of work underway that started on Monday in terms of the stock condition survey. So 500 tenants were written to last week to inform them of what we're doing in terms of a stock condition survey, because it's really important for us to have up-to-date information on what condition our stock is, because that really sets then the baseline for which we do our capital programs, the works that we've got to do, and make sure then that we can also cast the finances forward as to how much things will cost to get right and get to the position we wanted. So this plan sets out over the next 12 months or so with the idea that we sign off in the first half of the next calendar year on a brand new 30-year housing strategy. As I say, positive signs already that we've initiated the stock condition survey. You'll see in there's an awful lot of lines and different people that need to come together to make this work, to get the new strategy written. Another aspect to it that we've already started, in fact completed, but we'll be bringing to the next meeting of this board, is that we had a meeting over at Harper Hill just a few weeks ago to look at what the vision should be for our housing stock, what it should include. I won't give too much away because we're going to include it as an item on the next meeting's agenda. But when we've established the vision, then we can build out from that what needs to go in to deliver on that vision. Is it one that we're adding properties? Will we lose properties? Do we intend to do that? How will we finance it and bring all of that forward? So that's the first part of that, is the survey and the vision. And then the middle chunk that you'll see written as vision and planning. If you twist your head like Councillor Barrow, I see. It just goes on to explain all of the other bits that will need to be brought together and how that will work. What I would say is you'll see that the initial financial assessment in dark purple, we've done an initial financial assessment, and across the 30-year period we have a housing revenue account And for those of you that don't know, we have to keep our housing revenue account completely isolated from the council's other finances. And that we've got an initial position where we are able to balance the books. So that's a good place to start, because I know that not every council with a housing revenue account can start from that position. But of course, what we've then got to do is do the work on the stock condition survey, assess what things might cost to bring our properties up to the standards we want, and make sure that we've got the finance and funding to be able to achieve that. So we look again further down, you'll see that financial assessment and projections in detail is third up from the bottom in that category. And then for our tenants, George, Stella, we intend to consult with you on what the strategy is, what the vision is, whether it's something that you recognise, would buy into, would support. So we do want to make sure that we have a proper arrangement for engaging with our tenants. So I've got it towards the end, but the reality is that we'll be looking to do that and have check-ins rather than you get a whole document right at the very end to have a look at and read through. So we'll work out exactly how we do that. There is one thing in particular, well, two things in particular. The first thing was whether anybody got any comments or questions on this as it stands at the moment. Okay, and then the other is the phasing of these meetings, the housing board. You'll see that I've got a section there around governance. The intention was that, oh, sorry, Councillor Sloman's hand up, is that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if when we present it to the next meeting, and also to the tenants, we maybe ought to make it a little more user friendly, Martin. I mean, I know you love this format, but I just think it can be quite difficult to follow. And I would like to get as much input as possible.
Sure, I will do my best to look at how we can present that. You're right to say I do like this. And I'm always open to suggestions.
For that.
Councillor Todd's got a hand up as well.
Yeah, I just wondered, on the housing stock condition that comes in periods 9, 10, is it? Does that include looking at the efficiency?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So I will reveal a little bit then about the visioning, because I think it's relevant to this. So one of the things that we can often focus on entirely, and I'm an accountant, so I speak for my fellow accountants, is we can often have it all driven by the money, and does it all stack up financially, and then the other things are just a side effect of everything else that's going on. In the visioning workshop, it was agreed that we would look across 3 particular dimensions on that. So we would look at the money and the profit, and is there enough surplus to do all the things we need to do, because it's important that we have that. So we're looking at sustainability in those terms, profit. We're looking at sustainability in people terms. So clearly there are people going to be living in these properties. We're creating neighbourhoods, communities, and so the people is the second of those dimensions. And then the third dimension is about sustainability for the planet. So people, profit and planet are the 3 dimensions. And what we're intended to do is, for the whole of the plan, is to cast it across those 3 dimensions and be reporting and assessing and considering how everything that we do meets those 3 dimensions. And there'll be more on that in the next housing board.
Thanks, Martin. Is that everything?
I'd got one other thing to raise, but I'll just pause
sorry.
for any other questions. Okay, the other thing I was intending to raise, and what I'll do as I'm raising it, I'll just make this a bit bigger if that helps folk, and that is the phasing, sequencing and timing of these meetings. So clearly this is the first meeting, we're just getting things set up, and I've established what I see as the first 6 meetings, the key sort of focus of them, and we've managed to achieve all of those for that first one. But if you look out across the plan, you'll see that we've got one in, well, it was going to be May, but we've got it in April, but then we've got the second one in May and not another one because of the way we've compressed the timing until for some months after. So working assumption was that the housing board would be meeting approximately bi-monthly. So it's something to think about, certainly for the next meeting, as to whether we would sequence one in sometime in July or August, or whether you would prefer to have a pause while we go off and check the condition of the stock and everything else. But just something to consider in terms of that, because there is a bit of a gap at the moment. As I've slid a few of those meetings further in, it just left those gapped out a little bit.
So that's, sorry, Martin, is that another one in April? And then when would the next
No,
one be?
so we've got this one in April now. Yeah. Next one is in the middle of May, so right. Probably quicker than we would do normally. But that then means that we've got a bit of a gap until that suggests October. So I would have thought you'd probably want to do something in between, at least one in between times.
So, yeah. Perhaps July rather than August, though, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say the next meeting will be when we've got the inspectors, which is 15th, 16th of May. What do we know how long they take their report? Because it would be nice to have a meeting in July if we'd got their report by then, just to pat ourselves all on the back, which is what we're going to do.
I look forward to that. Helen's got the answer to that. She's got the
timescale
contact with the inspectors.
Okay.
They hope to have the report with you within 3 months currently, bearing in mind that they only got their regulatory powers on the 1st of April, so they've only just started to do the inspections of local authorities.
So is that 3 months? Is that 3 months from May?
Yeah. Right. Give or take.
Well, let's have a meeting when we get the report, because that makes good sense, because that'll focus our minds.
Yeah.
And we can make it a movable feast, because I'm sure that we can all fit in one way or the other. But it makes good sense to me to do that.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any views on that? I'd certainly agree with Fiona's suggestion. Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think given we've got a reasonable amount of work to do, even aside from the inspection, there's a bit for me, we set up our schedule sort of roughly along the lines that Martin said, sort of bi-monthly. And then I suspect, given that it's our first inspection under the new regime, we're obviously hopeful that we'll get a good impression back from them. I think, to my mind, it'd probably be something worth just focusing on as a single item for that meeting, so we can time it for when we get the report back.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Sounds like a plan. Anyone else?
Yeah, I thought that's what I said, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else to raise?
So I'll recast this project plan. I'll look at it how we can present it differently. But did I hear that the general sequencing, we'll go for a meeting in July, but then we'll slot one in when we've got the inspection report.
Okay.
I mean, one of the ways to cut this down would be to put the person's initials, strategic housing and asset lead, put the strategic, and executive director for finance. It's just TO.
Yeah.
Rather than all that lot. I mean, that'll compress it somewhat, won't it?
Yeah, I thought it important to give everybody everything for now, but I'll work it through.
Sorry, Martin, I was just trying to be helpful.
That's all right. No, I know that. Okay, I'll stop sharing that one.
Thanks, Martin. So that's the end of the agenda. Is there anything else that we need to discuss at this meeting? Helen, anything?
I just wondered if anyone had any queries around the inspection and the grading and ratings that the council may receive as a result of the inspection. And if so, I would be happy to whiz through those gradings.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thanks, Helen.
Okay, so the previously, Councillor Sloman, did you want
Yeah,
to
I
add
just wanted to know
something?
when they're going to interview us.
Well, I will receive the agenda week commencing the 6th of May. So as soon as I've got that agenda, I'll ring you.
Thank you.
And also Councillor McEwen, who they also will be wishing to interview. So, as I mentioned, from the 1st of April, the Regulator of Social Housing's powers are extended to cover local authorities. Previously, housing associations have received ratings around governance and around the way in which they conduct their business against consumer standards, but we never had. So all those have now been reviewed, and there's 4 ratings against the consumer standards. So a C1 rating means that everything's fine. Everything's absolutely hunky-dory. A C2 means that it's largely okay. There are some rooms for improvement, and they can see evidence of it being improvement. They did actually, Kim, who's my tenant engagement officer, attended a briefing in London the day that these standards were published, and the regulator did suggest that they would be unlikely to hand out many C4s during the first tranche of inspections. So I just wish to manage expectation there.
C1.
Yeah, C1s, sorry. So as I say, C2 is broadly okay, still some areas for improvement, but you can see that you're attempting and working towards that. C3 is that there's some areas of concern, some failings that they're not happy with, and C4 is that there's very serious failings. Obviously, you know, we'd be wanting to aim for a 1 or a 2 within those barometers. We have been working on this for about 18 months. We've made significant progress against the Regulation Act, and then, as I say, the consumer standards were published 8 days before we found out we'd been inspected. So we've made rapid progress doing our own self-assessment against those, which was very positive. So I can just see Councillor Sloman's popped her hand up.
Yeah, I mean, the C1 situation, they've already said that it's fixed, that, you know, people don't get C1s. Can we get a C2 plus?
No, they haven't said that no one will get them. They've said they're unlikely to give many in the first. That's what they've said, that they're unlikely to give many in the first tranche. The gradings are 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could just scrape into a 2, or you could have just missed out on a 1. It's like when you get a grade whatever it is nowadays, 9 or 8 at GCSE. Yeah. You might have been 1 off a 9, but you still got an 8, unfortunately. So yeah, and I think it's important to note that, you know, because councils haven't been regulated in the same way as housing associations for a significant period of time, that all the people who have been inspected that I'm aware of are councils. It's fair to share that within Derbyshire there are 2 other local authorities. In fact, that's not true. There's 3 other local authorities. So 50% of the Derbyshire local authorities have been notified that they're to be inspected. One, and bear in mind, only 6 are stockholding. 1 is just before our inspection, and myself and Martin are meeting with our colleagues there just to see if we can support each other, and then the others are after our inspection. So we were assured by the assistant director from the Regulator of Social Housing, who's coming to inspect us, that this was not a targeted thing. This was a routine thing. It's not because there's been any concerns raised. It's not because they have any concerns. So when it's a scheduled inspection, we get about 6 weeks notice, which we did. If it was a cause for concern inspection, we may not get any notice at all. So the fact that we had significant notice is very reassuring. I can discuss this at length and can go on at great length if anyone wishes me to do so, but I think we've covered the key points there. But if anyone's got any other queries, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I can go through that, or if indeed there's any questions now. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Can I just say, it does sound like we won't have too long to wait then. If we're right in the first tranche of inspections, it's not as if we're going to be waiting for other reports to be finished or work to be done for other authorities before ours is completed.
I think that's true. although it is fair to say as well, they are currently undertaking a lot of training because they've got a lot of new staff. So, for example, we're having 4 inspectors come to see us instead of the usual 2, because it's an opportunity for people to gain that experience. So I think your logic sounds, but there may be other pressures on their time apart from the inspection reports.
We've gained an extra member.
We have.
Very nice member.
Anything else from anyone else?
I think there's another hand up, Chair, but I
Sally-
can't just
Sally
see who
did
it
Oh,
hear
is.
it's
us, then I
Sally.
handed-
Yeah, it's me. Sorry, it's a little bit off piste. What do we do if we identify someone in our area who wants to sell their ex-council property?
Oh, don't mention it.
Oh, really? I didn't
No,
know
I'm-
there's a process.
You're on silent,
Well,
Helen.
Fiona and
Yeah.
Helen, you're on silent.
If I can just step in, there is a process. So the council has a legal right of first refusal in the first 10 years after a property has been sold to Right to Buy. If somebody wishes to sell the property back to us, then they can apply on the web form. It comes through. We undertake it as an assessment based on need for the property. We undertake an assessment based on any valuation. And then if all those things seem to stack up compared with what the rental income will be over the likely lifetime of the property, we send a surveyor. And then if we deem that it's something we'd want to proceed with, then we will do so. Fortunately, there are some instances where for whatever reason we're not able to proceed, but yeah, if someone wants to sell it back, certainly within the first 10 years they have to get our written agreement that they can sell it if they're not selling it to us.
That's fine. I'll have a look on the website then and see what I can find. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
certainly,
I could-
that's
I'll send
part
you,
of that. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Sally, I'll send you the link.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I've just got somebody who's been in their property about 20 years and he's now unfit to stay in the property. So I just wondered if it might be an option.
Oh, yeah. We're always looking to
Increase the
to sort
stock.
the business case out and check if the business case is all right. Then Fiona and I and Helen and Martin say yes. Then
Fab.
fine.
I'll wait to get an email from you then, Helen. Thank you.
Anyone else? Can't see any more hands up. So is that it then? Is that the end of our first housing board meeting? Thank you, everyone. Special thank you to George's cat and Stella.
And now I can see a cat's bomb.